So we're gonna take the male flower and rub the pollen all over the female. Now, ooh, look at that, all that yellow stuff is coming off. You can insert some in the middle, rub it all around. We're gonna get a nice big pumpkin.
It's back up from our pot here. Today we're gonna talk everything that you wanna know about pumpkins or gourds. Here I'm standing beside my beautiful Jamaican pumpkin or Caribbean pumpkin. This is a really good, dense, almost starchy, what Jamaicans call dry pumpkin. And as you can see, the vines have just taken over and this is just absolutely doing well. But today I wanted to talk to you about how to identify the male versus female flower and how to hand pollinate them. There are times that you see a pumpkin vine growing, you see the little pumpkins forming, and before you know it, they fall off. I'm going to talk to you about how to prevent that. Of course, this is a Caribbean pumpkin, but this applies to any of your pumpkins, any of your gourds that you're growing. Everything I'm showing you today will apply to that. So get your little notepads out. We're going to be hand pollinating pumpkins, and I'm going to show you the flowers and the pumpkins at different stages.
I'll also be talking to you about how to identify 3 of the most common pests and disease that attack our pumpkin or squash vines. And I'm going to tell you how to identify it early and how to treat it before it gets out of hand.
Let's get started. So the pumpkin flowers first open up around morning time. Early in the morning, you see the big yellow flowers. I waited a bit late. It's kind of early afternoon now. Anyway, I'm gonna first show you the male versus the female pumpkin flowers. So right here is a female pumpkin flower. This pumpkin hasn't actually bloomed yet. You can see the flower is actually just forming, but you can tell it's a female pumpkin because it has what they call an ovary right at the base of the flower. So the ovary is what is going to develop and become an actual pumpkin. So let me try and get out of the sun. You can see here that looks like a small pumpkin. So for all your gourds, all your pumpkins, whether it's winter pumpkin, summer pumpkin, whatever you call it, all your pumpkins will have the fruit forming at the base, just like cucumbers. Also, cucumbers, you see the actual fruit forming at the base, and that's called the ovary. Okay, that's going to develop into the fruit, and you see the flowers forming on top. Here is another one. You can see that one is a tiny little pumpkin. Let me see. This flower is just forming. You can see that roundness at the base. That is the ovary, and that's going to become a future fruit if it's pollinated. Directly beside it, let's look. Oh, this one has a lot. This little stem has a lot of females. Let's try and find a stem with a male. With the male flowers, you will not see that along the base. Let's find a male. Wow, guys, I'm going to be getting lots of pumpkins. Look at that. There's an ovary. There's another one. Oh my gosh. Let's try and find a male. All right, here's a male. So here you see the flower forming, but behind it, there's no fruit or there's no ovary. It's just a straight stem and no fruit. So this is a male flower. Let's find another one that's actually bloomed already. That one has not bloomed yet. You can see the flower is still closed. Let's find one that has bloomed. So right here, you can see this flower right here has already bloomed. This one has also already bloomed and has closed up. This is a male flower, so I'm going to pick this one so you can see what the inside looks like. And normally in the morning, I'm going to put a picture here. But normally in the morning time, guys, you see the big, beautiful flowers opened up. Because it's already afternoon and it's hot, these have already bloomed and closed up. But let me open this so you can see the difference between a male blossom and a female blossom. I'm standing in the shade of my guava tree because it's just so hot. I don't want my phone to overheat. So when you open this male flower, and you know it's a male flower because there's no ovary or there's no baby pumpkin at the base. When you open the male flower, this is the part of the flower that has all the pollen. So you see right here, This is the part that has the pollen. So the key to pollinating pumpkin to make sure that the ovary becomes a fruit, which is what we want, is we want to make sure the pollen gets from this male part right here, and we want to make sure it gets inside the female flower. So let me show you a female flower now. I think I have enough pumpkins to sacrifice one female flower, so I can show you close up how to do this. Wait, before I show you the female flower, the inside, I want to show you this real quick. Last night, I hand pollinated this girl right here. She had the flower attached, and I'll put a picture to show you. She had the flower attached. I took a male flower and pollinated her. You can see this is her flower that fell off. It's all rotted out. But look at this, guys. So when it's finished pollinated, the flower will fall off. But that isn't a guarantee. Usually you have to wait a few days to know if it's going to really work. But a good indication is, you see the little stem here that's leading up to the pumpkin? If this starts turning brown, you're gonna lose that pumpkin. If it stays green, it's a good sign. So we'll watch her for a few days, but I think she's good. We hand pollinated her last night. All right, so let's get another female flower. I see a couple that I hand pollinated last night. Those were actually the first ones for the season that I hand pollinated. You can see another one. That's the second one I hand pollinated. Both are looking good. Stems are green. Let's get a female, and if I don't find one tonight, I'm gonna have to come back tomorrow morning. All right, guys, so it's early next morning, and as promised, we have some open flowers. So this flower, this is a female flower. You can see how very different the female flower looks from the male flower. Okay, has like these little petals in the middle with a slight opening, and I'll show you that it is a female. Let's look at the base of the flower to verify that it's a female. And yes, there is the young pumpkin or the ovary at the base of the flower. All right, let's look for a male. Let's see if we see any males. Yep, we have a male here, but that's closed up. Let's get one that's open so you can see what it looks like open. Yes, that's a male. And we verify it's a male by looking at the back. And there's no ovary or pumpkin at the back. So I'm going to take this male, leave the female attached, of course. I'm going to peel back the petals, and we're going to pollinate her. Make sure you guys can see. All right, so this is a male flower. Gonna peel the petals back, and you can see all that pollen. Look at all that yellow. See that yellow dust? That's a pollen that is needed to pollinate the female. So I'm gonna peel this back. Ooh, Mr. B's trying to get some of that pollen. All right, so I'm peeling it back. You see the male part, and you see the female there. So we're gonna take the male flower and rub the pollen all over the female. Now, ooh, look at that, all that yellow stuff is coming off. You can insert some in the middle, rub it all around. We're gonna get a nice big pumpkin. She's pollinated. By this evening, the flower is gonna close up, and it's gonna look like this. Then maybe by tomorrow it's gonna fall off, and in a few days you will see that the pumpkin is growing. All right, guys, so let's move on now to pest control. Now that oh, and by the way, this has a lot of pollen on it still. So if there are more female flowers open, you can come out and pollinate them. The ones that I thought were gonna open today, that's one, and another one over there. They're not open yet, but tomorrow I'll come out and pollinate those. I want to get as much pumpkins as possible, guys. These pumpkins are just so delicious. Okay, let's move on to identifying the top 3 insects and disease that affect our squash vines. So the first way that I instantly know that there are bugs is if I walk out here and I see poop. So there's poop all over some of these leaves. So that's telling me that there's something eating and pooping out the leaves. You can also tell if there are bite marks on the leaves. That's also telling you that there's something eating the leaves. Also, if you see webs forming on the leaves. See the leaf like curled over like this? That's telling me that something is hiding under the leaves. So there's multiple ways of telling, of seeing if there's insect damage. So let's start off here with the poop. So I'm gonna look to see if I see any bugs. And one of the major bugs that affects these squash vines are squash bugs. And right here, I think I see one. Right there, that's a young squash bug. That's like a nymph. That's a young bug that's not fully adult yet. That's a squash bug nymph. So we want to get rid of that. I think I saw a couple adults. Yep, here are a couple adults. There they are. Those are the adult squash bugs. Very much like stink bugs. And you can see they're like attached together. A lot of times they're attached together. These can decimate your squash vine. So you want to get rid of these. So what you can do is treat the plant with BT or neem oil. What I do with those squash bugs is I knock them into some soapy water. I don't have any soapy water here. Well, this is this is what I've been using to knock them in. I kind of grab them with a gloved hand and knock them in. Usually if these are on my cucumber vine, I just knock them into the water. It's kind of harder on this vine since it's down on the ground, but I try and knock as many as possible into the water. However, since this vine is so huge, I think I'm gonna have to treat this vine with BT. Once the insect feeds on the plant that's treated with BT, it's like a systemic killer. It will actually kill the insect. Another insect that is on here is these little worms or cabbage worms. Hold on, let me make this smaller. You can tell when the leaf is bent over like this, there's usually something underneath. Let's see. Yep, it's so tiny I could barely see it. Let me try zoom in. See that little worm? That's a worm right there. That's a cabbage worm. That tiny little thing can decimate your plant. So I see all these little holes all over it. These leaves bent over. You can just even just squish the leaf like that. So you know that they're cabbage worms. This BT will also work on cabbage worms. It's a systemic killer, especially caterpillars. These little worms will definitely die with BT. So my squash vine is very vigorous, doing extremely well, has loads of pumpkins on it. So I definitely do not want to lose these pumpkins. I suspect I probably end up getting at least a couple dozen pumpkins. So I will be coming in and treating this with BT. I'm not going to take that chance. So this is another plant I have in the garden. It's doing really well, looking really great. But you see those little spots are coming up on it. This is powdery mildew. And as you go to the beginning of the plant, you can see the leaves on this side have the white on the leaves. You want to nip this in the bud immediately before it infects the whole plant and before the plant gets too bad. You can see this is flowering right now. All these flowers are male flowers. Tons of flowers all the way up, but all these flowers are male flowers. And guys, look at this. The vine is actually trellised its way up onto the fence, up onto the wooden fence, and I had to actually pull it off yesterday. It had actually trellised all the way up the wooden fence, holding on by the little tendrils. but I didn't want it going over to the neighbor's garden. So I pulled it back over. But anyway, we're here to talk about the powdery mildew. What I'm going to try, and guys, let me know if you've tried this and if it works. What I want to try for the powdery mildew, of course, if you have copper fungicide, you can use it. That will work. Sulfur, I really love sulfur now for anything powdery mildew, any kind of fungus. Sulfur works well. But everyone's been talking about trying using milk to kill fungus. So I always like to go with the least I always like to go with the simplest option. So I'm gonna try milk mixed with water to try and kill this powdery mildew. I'm gonna do, I think it's 1 part milk to 4 parts water. I'm gonna spray it with it, and then in a few days I'll show you guys what it looks like. I'll do a separate video showing how I'm gonna treat the powdery mildew on this. All right, guys, that's it for this video. Just wanted to show you how to identify and talk to you about how to treat it. Let me know, drop a comment below if you want to see me actually treat the powdery mildew and actually treat the insects. Let me know, drop a comment, and I'll do another video showing that. Okay, guys? Till next time. Bye now.